We first spoke, I think, when Inside the Edit was launching.
That was nearly 10 years ago, wasn't it?
I was thinking it's like a long time ago.
We both got less hair.
I don't know. I think you look better than I do for the 10-year difference. I could pull up a before and after, couldn't I?
It's just the lighting, man. It's just the lighting. That's all it is.
But I was thinking, in that time, there isn't a better editorial course in the way that Inside the Edit is. Like, as in, Inside the Edit is the best course there is for
thank you, man.
and has stayed that way for 10 years. My question to you was going to be, why is that? Why is the moat so high?
I don't know, honestly. To be honest with you, I really don't know why that is the case. But there's no one who really does what we do, but there's some great courses out there.
I've seen and reviewed lots of them, and I think
probably all of them.
But yeah, the things that I'd say like hallmarks of the course that have probably sustained it for those 10 years are the breadth of it, which is like enormous. Also the depth of it in terms of just your ability to articulate and teach like the concepts that are not just like, here's a scene I cut and here's why it's good. You have broken down the concepts and taught them in such a way that, yeah, it's just really good. But this is the thing is like, you were an experienced editor, a highly experienced editor before you made the course, as opposed to an editor who said, hey, I'll make a video course, and then didn't actually have decades to draw on in terms of teaching. And I think the perfectionism probably shines through as well in terms of just how meticulously well made it is. So I think all those things like make it really what it is, which is amazing.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I think another thing to probably add is that I actually took a break of about a year to teach, and you're teaching people from broadcasters. I was doing like Avid to FCP courses and Premiere to, and Avid courses and Premiere. I was teaching a lot of it, but it was all software. But you having people who are going through this process of the light bulb coming on about the power of what happens on the timeline and how software works. And if I hadn't have done that, I don't think my course would have been as concise and articulate. And I think the other thing is because it's talking about the art form, there's a timeless factor to it because these things don't really change. They evolve, but the theories and the visual grammar and the structure and stuff like that, they don't really change at all. You can have deviations and stylizations based on a particular editor's flair, but essentially the structure is locked. Because I'm a great believer that editing is the center of everything. If you can edit, everything else doesn't become easy, but it becomes easier. We've had people who've really gone far in their career and gone up the chain from news to documentary to reality to drama and stuff like that. I mean, that's one of the things we get asked about a lot, actually, which is, this is a documentary course. I'm like, no, it's not a documentary course at all. We just choose to illustrate on documentary footage, and we had to make a choice. But the way you cut a montage in a feature film drama, it's the same shot structure, action, all the kind of narrative structure that you would do in a reality TV show. It's exactly the same. I'd say 75% of our content is good for every genre, really. I think if the course has failed anywhere, if I'm honest, it's probably around, and this is part of our new kind of direction. It's so big and so in depth. And what we didn't do is actually create a structure of how to learn and divide up your time. We decided to basically go out, design what we thought pro editors need. And there's a bunch of things that pro editors need, really. If you want to compress 5, 6, 7 years down into a year and get out there and start earning money as an editor and working your way up the creative ladder, then you need a bunch of things that the academic world really doesn't train you for. One of them is like a pro workload. You need a pro workload. You need accountability. You need deadlines. You don't get that. The only place you really get that as a young editor is if you're working in a post house. You still start off assisting. So, you have deadlines, but they're not like creative deadlines. They're like assisting deadlines. So we've structured a course called the Pro Editor course, which is the first ever professional level creative accreditation. Like, can I actually cut? So we devised this year-long course, which is a kind of acceleration of the master's degree. And it's basically adding a whole bunch of new stuff in there and putting people into a continued cycle of learning, editing, and most importantly, feedback. Because you don't really get feedback either at film school in any great depth. So the feedback sessions we do individual feedback with all our students, and we do group feedback as well. look, I'm going to watch your cut. I'm going to go through it shot by shot and say, what's going on here? You know, that deep analysis that you don't get anywhere in the world. You don't get it from directors. You don't get it from exec producers. They just either work with you or not. You either get the call again at the end of the job or you don't. You don't have anyone saying, no, that's wrong. No, you can't cut those two shots together and then bring the music in here. The tone of that music is wrong. And then now that you're trying to ramp up the pacing here, you're going to need shots with more camera movement. And, you know what I mean? The deep analysis of what's wrong with your scene and sequence. And that's the quickest way. We've seen over 3 years, that's the quickest way people grow. We've seen people who have absolutely no experience in editing, you know, who are not even in the filmmaking industry. You know, they're just like, I think we had a podiatrist on one. Within that year, just the continued analysis and working and practicing and feedback loops around and around again every week for a whole year. They are employable as a professional editor now. It's been amazing to see. I was like, how do we accelerate that very slow, predictable 5 years of guesswork and chance and put people in an environment where not only are they going to be told continuously you've got a feedback loop, but you're going to be put under pressure like a real professional editor. You're going to have deadlines. You're going to have accountability. That was the whole kind of theory behind it, really.
Unpack for me how it works. So with this project course, is it like 1 year full time? Is it the kind of thing that you need to have a certain level of experience to take on? Like, who should do it and what level is it? Because like with Inside the Edit, you could kind of come in from nowhere. And is the core content mostly Inside the Edit kind of with the structure?
The core structure over the 12 months is the core structure of Inside the Edit. And Inside the Edit is 12 chapters and each one is a creative skill. And you're kind of going from assembly to rough cut to fine cut. And that's how we split each term. Each chapter is a month's work, essentially. So September to December is assembly, January to Easter, rough cut, and then Easter to summer is fine cut. Basically, the way we structured it is it's a blended learning experience. So each month is a creative skill, and each month obviously is split into 4 weeks. So in the first week, you are watching that chapter's tutorials on Inside the Edit. So it's a viewing week. It's a nice and easy viewing week. You're also watching one of our advanced boot camps. So they're about 4 hours, sometimes a bit longer, sometimes a bit shorter. So they also take that concept and they give you more examples, live examples of me talking through and stuff like that. So you watch all of this content in the first week. You immerse yourself in pace and timing or music editing or montage or whatever. And then in the first week, I do what's called a live cut session. So I will go through and in a live environment, I will have footage on my timeline and I will cut live and go, oh, this doesn't work, or let's do this. And so you're seeing the process happening in real time. It's a masterclass, like a watch me edit live masterclass. And you can ask questions at any one time, like, why did you do this? Or what did you do that? And of course, what you also see is the trial and error of like, oh, I'm going to try this out. Oh, that didn't work. And, you know, editors don't edit something perfectly one first time. It's a process and it's a lot of, yeah, okay, I'll try this. Or maybe this is a good idea. So that's the first week. The second week, you get a project brief and you're set a bunch of sequences. So you got to cut a bunch of sequences, and you're given raw footage, which has been specifically designed to test you on this particular creative skill, say pace and timing. So how do you manipulate tempo? How do you create low tempo, speeding up, crescendos, diminuendos, all these kind of things? How do you cut fast, slow? What are the elements that really define tempo outside of just cutting fast? So then you basically do a rough cut. You work for 2 weeks, 2 and 3. You cut a bunch of sequences. You're given the footage. You're given a project brief that replicates the kind of conversation that you'd have with the director. So it's like, here's the rushes. This is how long it's got to be. These are the problems that you might find in the rushes, because there's always problems. There's nothing that happens, 100%. This is the tonality of the sequence. It might have jeopardy in it. It might have comedy. It might be a slower paced romantic sequence, or it might be a faster paced action sequence. And there's variation, of course, because we try and vary. We're very keen on the whole idea that you need to vary different tones and tempos as you grow throughout the course. So no sequences are the same. So each of these sequences that you cut every month, you've got 2 weeks to cut them. So at the start of week 2, you've got 2 weeks to do an interim cut. Now, in the second week as well, we got this thing called movie night analysis. So I basically take whatever we're learning that month, whatever creative skill, we watch movies. And I choose specific scenes and selections within movies and go, look at this. Look at how the editor's done this. Let's watch this scene. Let's watch that scene. Let's watch a faster version. This is slower, a medium, whatever that thing is we're watching. It's not that this is easy, but you see now that we've completely deconstructed this particular skill. Let's see how the pros do it. And we might look at documentaries, we might look at dramas, we might look at reality TV, might look at online branded promos and see the differences, because if you can do this, you can do it in any genre. So that's week 2. In week 3, we have your cutting for your second week, and we have our group feedback session. So the group feedback, and these are amazing because, for 3 years, we've been running them every month. And what you see is when everybody comes together and they're cutting the same footage and we all watch everyone watches each other's cuts, and you get to see the really good decisions that person did, but also the bad decisions, or they didn't end it well, or they didn't create an arc good enough across a pictorial arc or a narrative arc or whatever. So everyone has these kind of epiphany, enlightening moments when you see what other people have selected and how good they are and stuff like that, and how bad, and like, oh, I'm going to learn from that. I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to nick a bit of that. And, that's a really good idea. I'm going to take that. So that's the end of week 3. And then week 4 is one-to-one week. So one-to-one week is when I have a one-to-one with every single student, and I watch all of their cuts and give them detailed shot-by-shot analysis. You got problems here. This is really good. These are where your strengths are. These are where your weaknesses are. This is what you've got to work on. Let's go through it. It's kind of like the notes you get from an exec producer, but way more detailed. How are you cutting these together? Are you observing all the good rules around continuity? How's your music selection? Are you matching the tonality of the music with certain elements within the scene? All of these, hundreds of questions. And then we also have a guest speaker in week 4. It's really nice to ask questions to successful editors like Eddie Hamilton is one of the guest speakers. He's just finished cutting Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, and he got Oscar nominated for Top Gun: Maverick. Mark Everson, who's cutting Wonka at the moment for Warner Brothers, cut Paddington 1 and 2, and Johnny English Reborn, stuff like that. Directors talking about what do they want in an editor, what turns them off, what turns them on, what attracts them to a CV. So it's a very pro-orientated set of guest speakers who you just wouldn't get the chance to talk to these people and ask them questions and stuff like that, and ask them about their rise, whether they're an editor, a director, or an exec producer. And then at the end of week 4, you submit your work. So you've got your final deadline. So you've got an interim deadline, a kind of rough cut deadline, and then once you've taken notes we've gone through with me, you go back and rework your sequences and you submit them. And then every term, we've got 3 or 4 months in a term, depending on the term. And every term you get a grade on your work with written feedback. So you get three or 4 layers of feedback and you get a grade. And so if you go through each term and you get a B or higher, you will become an accredited Inside the Edit Pro editor, but not below.
How many months in a term? 3 or 4 months in a term?
There's 4 months in the first term and then 3 months in the terms 2 and 3. But then we break up in the middle of July, but then we have a summer project. So you start at the start of September and you end at the end of August. So you've got 6 to 7 weeks to cut a 30-minute long form piece. So it's a whole year. A couple of weeks off at Christmas, a couple of weeks off at Easter. That's it. There's no breaks.
Could you have made this course for me about 20 years ago when I was at university?
You made it for me as well. I mean, all the pain that we went through of trial and error, the way we came up is incredibly laborious, and it's just full of a lot of time wasting. One of the reasons we did the master's degree was to kind of prove that you could get to pro level in a year. You still need to practice and you work on, different footage and stuff like that, but you can get to a very, very high level very quickly if you're put under those circumstances. But those circumstances do not exist out there at the moment. It takes a very, very long time because of the structure of how the industry works. You've got this chicken and egg kind of paradox, this crazy situation of, You're supposed to know all of these creative techniques and skills and concepts. That's what directors, producers, studios, production companies, and broadcasters expect. We can't articulate what they are. We just know it when we see it. And then you're at the other end of the film schools, and they're just, they're not teaching what you need to know. And you end up, 100, 200 grand in debt, depending on where you are, and you're not really employable. So the whole structure of what we've always tried to do with Inside the Edit, specifically with the Pro Editor program, is how can you earn money now? Not when you're 100 grand down and you've got to wait 3 or 4 years. This is not a full-time course. This is specifically designed to fit in around work. So, most of our students over the last 3 years, they got full-time work. They might be editors. You've got lots of promo editors who want to move over to long form and stuff like that. They're seasoned, high-end promo editors. They're people who are new to the industry. There's a wide range, but they're all working full-time. I'd say 90% of them working full-time. And they're doing, a couple of hours in the morning before they go to work, maybe get them early, a couple of hours in the evening or an hour in the evening, and then working on weekends and stuff like that. So it's designed to fit around full-time work, whether you're in the industry or not.
Who should sort of self-select themselves? Because it sounds like an amazing opportunity, an amazing course, which requires a certain level of commitment and drive. Whereas obviously, like, if you just sign up to Inside the Edit, you can watch at your own pace, you can dip in and out as and when you want and that kind of thing. But if you don't have a very rigorous self-discipline, it could very quickly become wishy-washy in terms of what you get out of it or how much you get out of it. Who should sort of self-select themselves for it, and what should their mindset be in terms of approaching it? Should it be, I'm going to do this for a year because I know at the other side I'm going to come out employable or even more employable than I am?
We do get this question a lot. Well, what's the difference between Inside the Edit and the Pro Editor program? The difference is Inside the Edit is self-taught learning. You go in, you have the footage, you are set creative tasks, you watch the tutorials. At the end of each tutorial, you're given something to do. But there's a number of things that you don't get. You don't get one-to-one feedback. You don't get group feedback. You don't get deadlines. You speed up when someone's giving you feedback, when you have accountability as well. So you could be the greatest editor in the world, but if you can't keep a deadline, you will never work, ever, because deadlines are money. The whole thing is it's preparing you for industry. But the other thing we're really interested in, actually, we've basically created a Pro Editor alumni group. It's a community of pro editors who've gone through the course. And one of the beautiful things, we've done the masters for 3 years now, is so many of these people are staying in contact. It's like you've gone this amazing journey. You've all learned the same stuff. You've all come to this really high standard. And now you're going to go out into the world. So you need support. You need constant advice and stuff like that. So we've built this alumni group, which you get lifetime membership to. And we meet up every month. We watch cuts. We're building a Discord group where, like, I've got this client and they don't really know what they want. Can everyone have a look at this cut and see what they think? It's not a kind of normal channel full of filmmakers who haven't gone through a very arduous and in-depth process. It's like, these are all pro editors. That kind of community with editors, I always thought was missing. So we give people the lifetime membership of Inside the Edit. We give people lifetime membership to all the boot camps. So they have these learning resources forever. And you come and join our community, but you have to have gone through the pro editing group, because otherwise it dilutes the usefulness of it. You wouldn't get as much if people are asking really basic questions and stuff like that. It would be a different type of group.
Yeah. And also then everyone has the same foundation of knowledge and experience to a certain degree. And then if there's a job come up, we need another editor.
Yeah, well, that's the great thing, is that people are already sharing jobs on these groups of our students. They're like, oh, we need another editor. Can you recommend anyone? Yeah, I can recommend someone. And it's like, that doesn't exist anywhere. And you can actually know, you've seen that person's work for a year. You've seen them evolve. You can actually recommend them. Not, well, this person's my mate. They're my friend. I hope they don't screw it up because it's going to look bad for me. It's like, no, I can recommend this person. So that's unique. I'm always trying to think of filling the gaps in the editing experience, how you evolve a career, how you make money as soon as possible, how you get more clients, how you create a bigger show reel. And I think that's really missing from anywhere in the training world, the academic world. It's only open to a few people. Maybe if you're very lucky to be an assistant editor on a big feature film in a post house or something like that. But, there's 5 of those jobs a year.
What should I have asked you that I've not asked you, Paddy? We're coming out to an hour, so I don't want to take too much of your time.
If anything, in the last couple of years has taught us is that basically we're evolving a whole bunch of new products. So the Pro Editor program is one. We're doing all these new advanced boot camps, which are just pre-recorded. You can buy them if you are like light on a particular skill. I really need to really understand pacing, timing. Okay, so you just buy this boot camp. It's like 5-6 hours long, and you get footage and you get tasks to do and stuff like that. But it's just this. So it's the fragmentation really of the art form. We're going to be doing these 1 week intensives as well. We're going to be doing conversion courses and stuff like that. So we're going to be doing these 1 week intensive courses like editing theory for videographers. So if you're going out and you're a one person self-shooter director, you know, how do you shoot? What do you shoot? What do you need? What's the minimum? You know, and then how do you get it all back and cut it together? So yeah, we're just expanding the amount of products and ways to learn editing really, and all the kind of secondary skills around that. So the next year is really exciting for us. Your skill level is the most expensive thing in the early part of your career. You know, where are you going to learn? And my whole thing is like, well, do you want to, you know, in some parts of America, you're like dropping $250,000 and, or, you know, even 100, 200 grand, you're in debt until you're in your 50s. And you're no better off than anyone who's really going straight out into the industry and then picking it up gradually by themselves. That's crippling. We're constantly thinking of new ways and evolving new products and stuff like that. And the next 18 months for us is a very big growth period in that direction, really, to give people highly condensed professional level editing and filmmaking theory that you can't really get anywhere else.